Hey, everybody. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a period in your life where you're having a really difficult time? And it's really difficult. And, it's basically out of your control. I mean, there's not anything that you can do about it. And when there's not anything that you can do about it, what happens is that brings a certain level of frustration into your life. And, you're praying about it and you're praying about it. And you just don't see an answer. You don't see what's happening. You don't see any change. And you can just come to a place in your life and you're just like, the frustration is so built up inside of you. And you are so frustrated and angry or whatever emotions you want to tag to that. And you're just like, you know what? I can't talk to God right now because I don't know what I'm going to say. And maybe you think that you can't talk to God because you might talk to God a little too frankly, right? Have you ever been there? I have. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have. In all honesty, I've talked to God quite frankly before in different ways. It's what I like about David. It's what I like about the Psalms. David really didn't pull any punches when he talked to God. And I was just looking at what prompted this was Psalm 55, verse 2. Well, I'm going to start in verse 1. He says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God. Don't hide yourself from my supplication. Attend to me and hear me." He's saying, God, I need you to hear me. God, listen up. And then he makes this, he said, "I'm restless in my complaint and I moan noisily." He was very clear that he was complaining. He was very clear that he was uneasy and he was restless. And he even says, "I moan noisily." I'm complaining and I'm rattling off. I'm going to tell you something. The scriptures call David a man after God's own heart. And if David can talk to God like that, then I can say that we can come to God as well in our own times of frustration and disappointment and anger. In fact, a little bit later on in that chapter, in verse 22, it says to cast your burden on the Lord and he will sustain you. To take that burden, take that heavy burden and give it to God. Just cast it on him. Let him know. Tell him you're putting it on him. Tell him you're casting it on him. 1 Peter 5:7, I believe it says to cast all of your care on the Lord because he cares for you. If you read different translations, some of them say anxiety, some of them say care, some of them say burden. You take that care, you take that burden, you take that anxiety, you take whatever it is and you cast it on God because God weighs big. You know what? God is big when I'm not big. I'm not always a big boy when I approach God. I'm not always refined when I approach God. I'm not always a well-oiled pastoral machine when I approach God. Sometimes I'm just Keith, frustrated, disappointed, and down. And you know what? Sometimes I think that God likes that Keith better than the other Keith, because then I just come to him in honesty and in truth, and I just take my burdens and I just lay them upon him. Where are you today? Cast your burdens on the Lord, and he will sustain you. God bless you. Get out there. Faith this day, all right? Bye. Love you guys.